Hello once again, my friends. It is me, Two Sheds. Now, as you know, the other day I did a Pixar films tier list, so I figured why not, you know, tackle the big one and do Disney films tier list. So, that's what we're going to be doing today. Hope you enjoy. Now, here's everything we are going to be putting on, and as per usual, these are the tiers. D tier means bad. C tier means not very good. B tier means okay. A tier means good. And S tier means amazing. So let's get into this. Starting this off with Snow White, the original animated movie. They're just I think it's S tier, to be honest. There's so many great things about it. You can look at it from the innovating the field. You can look at it, from the great story side. There's just so much fun to be had with this movie, in my opinion. So it is an S tier movie. Now it's Pinocchio's turn. Not just S tier, but this is my favorite animated movie, let alone Disney movie. In fact, I'm just going to go out and say it. This is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time, just in general. I love every scene and character here. And it too made a lot of great innovations to animation. Plus, I was watching it the other day for who knows how many times I've seen this movie. I was just as invested as I was when I was watching it as a little boy. I I don't think there will ever be a day where I don't love this movie. So easily S tier. Fantasia is next. I think Fantasia right now, it goes back and forth for me, but right now I think it's A tier. Like, I don't think my opinion has changed more on a movie upon a second watch than this one. First time I watched it, I wasn't really that into it, to be honest. It probably would have been a lower tier, but I watched it again a while back. I actually I actually found myself liking it quite a bit. So I think it's worth a place in A tier right now. Dumbo is next. I I just love these movies too much. This is also S tier. The I just have so much fun with this one. It's funny, it's engaging, it's sad. It just pulls me in so many directions when I watch it. So it's another movie that I love. Bambi is next. So I think Bambi will go I don't like it as much as these. I think I'm gonna put it in the B tier because it too made many innovations in animation, but when I watch it, I'm just not very invested because there's not really a lot going on in this movie. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's watchable and it has its place in among these movies, but I really just have never been that invested in it. I know there are people that like it and good for them, but it's just not really my movie. So now we have Saludos Amigos. So I get what this movie was for. It was trying to turn the places down in South America towards the U.S. during World War II. But looking at it now, I just don't think it has a lot of value in today's world. So I think it's a C tier movie. Like, it isn't terrible, just I just couldn't get into it myself. Yeah, the Three Caballeros. Now, it's in the same boat as Saludos Amigos. It has a similar purpose during World War II, but this one is full on annoying. I really just don't like this movie. I do not plan on watching it again ever. Just not great. If you thought that was bad, we have Make Mine Music, which is D tier for sure. I'm gonna say it. I think this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like, it's sort of like Fantasia, but with half the budget and effort put into it. Half of the scenes I forgot about as soon as they were over, and the other half stick out to me in bad ways. So, I think it's one of the worst movies ever made. You may disagree, but I simply have never, nor am I ever likely to like this movie. Fun and Fancy Free is next. This movie is A tier, to be honest. It is a breath of fresh air after these ones. It actually has some fun stuff in it to watch. Like, and since there are only 2 segments to it, I can actually get more invested because they're not pulling me to something else every few minutes. So I think it's a great movie. I mean, you might not think so, but I certainly do. All right, Melody Time. This had the potential to be Make Mine Music all over again, because it was sort of like that, except, to be honest, I was way more into this than Make Mine Music. It's leagues above. In other words, it's okay. It's nothing really special, but I wouldn't say it was a complete waste of my time. Alright, now it's The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Another one I like. It's sort of like Fun and Fancy Free. It's only got 2 segments here, but I wouldn't say I like it as much as Fun and Fancy Free, but I had a good time with it all around. Alright, now it's Cinderella. A classic, if ever there was one. It's another very good movie, in my opinion. Like, I have a lot of nostalgia going for it. I wouldn't say it's one of my absolute favorites right now, but it's definitely a landmark among these movies. So I think it's worth a place in A tier. Alright, Alice in Wonderland is next. I love this movie, to be honest. It's one of those movies I think we can all watch and enjoy, to be honest. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend giving it a watch, because it's just a fun ride, all things considered. Definitely worth an S tier position. Alright, Peter Pan. I'd say it's a nostalgic movie for me. It's quite similar to Alice in Wonderland. Don't think it's as good though, so I think high A tier is a good place for Peter Pan, in my opinion. Alright, Lady and the Tramp. I know it's a classic. I know it's well received. It's just I was kind of bored while watching it. I just wasn't engaged with it very much. I mean, it has its merits, but there are very few. So I think it's a C tier movie all around. Sleeping Beauty is next. I'm gonna put it in S tier. It is a very fun watch, for sure. The animation looks great over 60 years later, which is very cool. And if you haven't seen it, I think it's worth a watch. It's another very fun ride along with these other S tier movies. All right, 101 Dalmatians. So here's the thing. The first half of this movie I think is high A tier material, but second half is probably, it goes down to like a high C tier, but I think that bounces out to put it in high B tier, because we have very good and not great, so I think that goes around to being okay for the whole movie all around. All right, The Sword and the Stone. I think it goes in C tier. There's just it's just not a very interesting movie for me. I just can't get engaged in this story. The only reason in fact that I'm not putting it in the D tier is because the finale with the big wizards duel, that is very fun. It's definitely a highlight among all these, so that alone keeps it out of the D tier, but still that's the only part I'm really that into, so it can't really go above C tier. All right, now the Jungle Book is next. So I think the Jungle Book is S tier. It's one of those movies I was not expecting to like it as much as I did, but it just worked for me. All the characters, all of the songs are catchy, and no matter what kind of mood I'm in. I I just really enjoy this movie quite a lot, more than I was expecting, for sure. All right, now the Aristocats. It's okay. Could have been a lot better. Could have been a lot worse, in my opinion. Like, I mean, there are scenes I don't like. There are scenes I do like. I think it balances out to be an all around so so movie. So if that's what you're in for, look no further than the Aristocats. Right now, Robin Hood. I think this movie is also B tier. Like, it has its fun moments, but all around, I think is kind of forgettable. I think it just gets lost in the sea of other Robin Hoods, but it has its redeeming qualities too. So I'm gonna put it here in B tier. Now, the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. It's a fun ride. Not one of the best, but it's fun to just, hang around with Winnie the Pooh and friends. Just watching him go on his, obviously, as the title would imply, many adventures. It's just a nice, relaxed, laid back movie in my eyes. All right, The Rescuers is next. B tier. Like, it's another one. There could have been better, could have been worse in my eyes. Like, if you like it, good on you. If not, that's fine too. I'm overall neutral to it. Okay, now The Fox and the Hound. This movie is so good and no one talks about it. Why? Why does no one seem to know about this movie? If you haven't seen it, which I'm sure there's someone out there that hasn't, check it out. It will be worth your time. All right, now The Black Cauldron. It could have been great, but it's not. Like, it has its moments of greatness, but all around it's extremely forgettable. It could have been more fun than it is, but they tried too hard to be too dark, when really I don't really think that was the kind of movie it was. So not really a great movie all around. All right, The Great Mouse Detective is next. A tier. It's not a movie I actually think about particularly often, but a great movie nonetheless, in my opinion. I think it was worth my time. Right now it's Oliver and Company's turn. So I've had a lot of people say to me that this movie is an underrated classic. I've heard so many people say it's great. So many people have told me wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for those who think that. I was just never into it the whole time I was watching it. It's just not really, it was just kind of boring for me, to be honest. Overall, not really great. All right, The Little Mermaid is up next. it's never really clicked with me, but it it's a turning point for these movies, so I have respect for this movie. Maybe not an absolute favorite, but still, I I think it's good enough to warrant being a turning point for this studio's history. The Rescuers Down Under is next. As we know, I thought the original Rescuers was just okay. This is a great movie all the way through. I mean, it stars John Candy, my favorite actor of all time. He just steals every scene he's in. Plus, this movie too broke a lot of new grounds in animation, being the first one to be, I believe, digitally inked, which is really cool. So, because it's just a cool movie all around, I gotta put it in A tier. All right, Beauty and the Beast. This one, I think, goes up in S tier. I mean, it's one of those movies that just gets better and better as it goes on. It's just a fun story all around. I I'd say check it out, but there's a good chance you've already seen it, so. All right, Aladdin, another tried and true classic. I think it's A tier. I had a lot of fun watching this one. I love all the characters, especially the genie and the carpet. They're probably my favorites of this movie. It's a movie with great characters to get invested in, so I'd say it was worth a watch. All right, now The Lion King, which is going straight to S tier. I'm sorry, if you don't like The Lion King, something is wrong with you. That's all I can say. Right, Pocahontas is next. So here's the thing. I really just do not like this movie at all. It just tells the story so wrong. Like you probably already know, this is often regarded as the least accurate history movie of all time. It just does not do the original story of how it happened justice, in my opinion. I mean, there are some good songs in it, but that's really all I can say good for it. Now, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This one is one of the darker Disney movies and much better off for it in my eyes. It's it's a movie that is just so engaging every time I watch it. It definitely benefits from all that. So I think it is an incredible movie. Hercules is next. I think it's B tier, like a high B tier to be sure, but I it it has its great moments, but I was never into it as a whole, so I can't really put it higher than a high B tier for me. I'm sorry, I know there are people who like it, just not my kind of movie all around. Now we have Mulan, A tier. It's very cool. It has a really cool animation style, and in my eyes, it's a very cool story, and again, more great characters to like. So all around, a good movie. Tarzan is next. It's good. Like, it's never been an absolute favorite of mine, but I I think I had fun watching it, so I think it's a good movie. Right, Fantasia 2000 is next. I think it's a C tier movie. Like, it was trying to be the successor to Fantasia, but I don't think it I don't think it takes itself the right amount of seriously. It was trying too hard to be too silly. It just didn't really click for me all around, so they could have done a lot better. Now it's time for Dinosaur. It is down there with Make Mine Music as another one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I The animation just looks unpolished in my opinion. I get it was their first 3D animated movie for Disney, so I guess I could see why, but still it doesn't look good. The characters and story are very forgettable in my opinion. Just I could not care less about this movie, to be honest. Now we have The Emperor's New Groove. So here's the thing about The Emperor's New Groove, everyone. Like, it seems to have become sort of recognized as a classic these days. Like, in recent times, people have come around to think, wait, this movie is great. I actually had the benefit of seeing it before that happened, so I can tell you it is a hilarious movie. It is one of the funnier movies I think I've ever seen. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. People are right to come around to it. All right, Atlantis is next. It's in a similar situation as Hercules. I know it has its good points, but at the same time, I was never really fully into it, so B tier is really the highest I can put it. I wish I could put it higher because it has some really cool ideas in it, but I can't. All right, Lilo and Stitch, a clear-cut classic. It's very, very fun to watch. It's got great character dynamics in it, and it's just a really fun movie to watch whenever you really want to. It's always there for you here. It's just really fun. That's all I can really say. All right, Treasure Planet is next. It is C tier. I another one where I've heard people say it's an underrated classic. I could never get into it. Like, I didn't find the characters to be particularly compelling, and plus it tries to like mesh a couple of animation styles together. They just didn't fit well in my opinion. So it's just not a great movie if you ask me. All right, Brother Bear is next. This is a movie that I heard was a classic that I absolutely can get into. I had fun watching it. It's a great story with, again, very fun characters to watch, and it's got an interesting twist that I'm kind of surprised I didn't see coming the first time, but it's very fun if you ask me. Home on the Range is next. This is one of the most hated on movies of these, and rightfully so if you ask me. This movie is just way too weird and wacky for me to really love. I mean, The Emperor's New Groove I think got it right, but this movie tried to be The Emperor's New Groove but failed miserably. Right, now Chicken Little. This is a nostalgic movie to me, but I'm sorry, I've definitely grown to see its flaws. Sorry I have to do this to you, Chicken Little. You're just a bad movie. I'm sorry. Robinsons is up next. I had fun with it. I will say I did see the twist ending coming pretty much the whole time. But that's really the only fault with this movie. Otherwise, it's good. All right, Bolt is up next. Another movie I liked that I did not expect to like. I had a lot of fun with it, watching, these characters just journeying through the country and just getting in all sorts of situations. I had a lot of fun here. Now The Princess and the Frog, A tier. Like, don't really got a lot to say here. I had fun with it, like a lot of these movies. That's all I really got to say. Now up to movie number 50, Tangled. Another great movie in my eyes. It has some nostalgia going for it, so that might be why it's up here, but I think it earned it overall. Winnie the Pooh, the 2011 one, is next. I think it's B tier because I put this Winnie the Pooh in A tier because it was just kind of nice, calm, and relaxed. This one's all over the place. I mean, it isn't the worst thing ever, but I prefer the nature of this one. Wreck-It Ralph is next. Another movie I have some nostalgia going for. So, but still, all around, whenever I watch it, I have fun, and I'm really into it overall. Frozen. I know there are people out here that don't like it. I do like it. I think the animation in this movie is gorgeous, especially during the parts, which is most of the movie, where there's a lot of snow going around. That looks really cool in this movie. Plus, I love a lot of the songs in this one too. A good time, if you ask me. Now it's Big Hero 6's turn. I had a blast with this movie. It's just a great, it's just such a fun story. I love all these characters. Like, each one of them is memorable to me, and I just enjoy it every step of the way very much. So definitely an S tier movie in my opinion. All right, now Zootopia. There are people that love this movie. There are people that hate this movie. I think it's okay. Like, I've never loved it. I've never hated it. It has some things to say, but it's never really connected to me, so it's just okay. All right. Now Moana is next. Similar situation to Zootopia over here. Like, it has its merits, but it's just never really connected with me, so B tier is where it lands. Right now, Ralph Breaks the Internet. Wreck-It Ralph 2. I think I like this movie about the same amount as the first Wreck-It Ralph. Maybe a bit more. They're both solid movies that are well worth a place in A tier. Now we have, as of the making of this video, the most recent of the Disney movies, Frozen 2. Right now I think it's a C tier. Like, I think it was trying a little bit, but I feel like it was kind of a sellout because of how much the first Frozen made at the box office. They rushed it in. There are some scenes which are fun, but a lot of them are kind of forgettable. So I don't think Frozen 2 is great. All right, here is the completed tier list. I could just fit it on screen. I'll read off all the tiers. In S tier, we have Snow White, Pinocchio, Dumbo, Alice in Wonderland, Sleeping Beauty, The Jungle Book, The Fox and the Hound, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Emperor's New Groove, and Big Hero 6. In A tier, we have Fantasia, Fun and Fancy Free, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Cinderella, Peter Pan, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, The Great Mouse Detective, The Little Mermaid, The Rescuers Down Under, Aladdin, Mulan, Tarzan, Lilo and Stitch, Brother Bear, Meet the Robinsons, Bolt, The Princess and the Frog, Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, and Ralph Breaks the Internet. In B tier, we have Bambi, Melody Time, 101 Dalmatians, The Aristocats, Robin Hood, The Rescuers, Hercules, Atlantis, Winnie the Pooh, Zootopia, and Moana. In C tier, we have Saludos Amigos, Lady and the Tramp, The Sword and the Stone, The Black Cauldron, Oliver and Company, Fantasia 2000, Treasure Planet, and Frozen 2. And in D tier, we have The Three Caballeros, Make Mine Music, Pocahontas, Dinosaur, Home on the Range, and Chicken Little. Here it is, the finished tier list once again. This was a wild ride, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, Be sure to press like and subscribe if you have not already. Until then, this is Two Sheds signing off again.